Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Placement Podcast, where we're going to talk about student experience, get the employer perspective, and really just help you to become the most competitive applicant you can in the placement job market. We're going to discuss a lot of things, but if there's anything that specifically that you want us to cover, do drop us an email at placements.sbs@sutton.ac.uk. Now, this week, we're going to get another student perspective, and we're going to talk to a student who has just finished their placement. And so I will hand over to him to introduce himself and tell you what he did on his placement and where he was.
Hi everyone, my name is Max. I am going to my final year of a BSc Business Management degree with year in placement at the University of Southampton. And the last year I've been doing an industrial placement with Audi. Now, you might have heard about the Audi placements quite a lot, but I did quite a niche one in the sense that I actually did a corporate placement. So I was doing a national supply chain management industrial placement at Audi. It's a really new scheme, really exciting. I had a fantastic time, and I'd like to let you know all about it.
Okay. So, like you said, that's a niche kind of corporate placement. We've heard a lot about the retail management roles that are based in store. So, can you tell me a little bit about your placement specifically and how it's maybe different to one that we may have heard about in those retail management positions?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, as you rightly said, the retail management one's quite an old, well-known placement scheme. The corporate one is split into lots of different positions. I think there's 10 in total, where you get spanning across all sorts of departments in the national head office, where they're based, which is in Atherstone. My one, as I said, was in national supply chain management, which is formerly known as the corporate logistics placement. So it's working in the national supply chain department in Audi, where we control the inbound of all of the products from wherever the suppliers may be, all around the world. So in my experience, I did a lot of work with transporting the specials that you see in the mid-lard over from China to the UK, and we manage all of the inbound from that all the way over from wherever it comes to into our regional distribution centres. So it was a really exciting thing to see. Obviously, you might have seen in the news recently, there's been lots of different challenges with supply chains and all these lorry drivers, and also the Suez Canal. So it had lots of fun challenges over the course of the year. I guess the major difference that it kind of has between that and the retail management placement scheme is it is obviously in an office. So the retail one is an opportunity to really learn about management of people, management of operations. So you spend a lot more time in the store with the customers, whereas we're a bit more like a traditional placement at a different company, where you are working in an office, you are with office-based staff, you have very little face time with the actual stores other than a 5-week store training program at the beginning of the placement. And obviously that's got pros and cons to it. It teaches you a lot more side of the kind of corporate world and what it's like to operate in a business, I think. But there's obviously benefits of getting that operational side of things as well.
Yeah. So you secured your placement, I know, quite early. What was the process like for securing your placement with Audi, and how long did it take you to get your placement?
So the thing with Audi is there's lots of steps to go through, but they push you through them at 1,000,000 miles an hour. Mm-hmm. So I think that the actual time span between me sending off my first application and me getting the job offer was less than 2 months. So I think it was around the start of October to really early in December I actually got my job offer, which is really quick. There's about 6 stages to the actual job process though, because the first thing you've got to do is, as a general thing, everyone does their CVs, and they do rather than cover letters, there's like almost a questionnaire essay format type thing. Okay. So you have a series of questions, you type out a essay-based answer, and you submit them off with your CV. If you pass that round, you then get through to a video interview stage. So as it is with all placements applications, you kind of get a few questions and then you video yourself doing a response and send that off. I think it was probably between 24 and 48 hours after I sent that off before they said, right, next round, here we go. You've got 3 days to do this. So it really was no time to breathe at all. The next stage was maths and English testing. So, and also kind of psychometric type testing. So Audi as a business is a really keen base on its culture. And then they had a really extensive list of questions and kind of how would you respond? What would you kind of say is the sentence that most matches you? And there was probably about 20 questions on that, as well as maths and English. that you have to fill out. So that was probably one of the hardest bits of it. If you want to pass that, I was through to an assessment centre. So I went to an assessment centre probably about 2 weeks later, if that. Went up to the National Health and Safety / HR base in Bolton, which was quite a long journey, but it was good fun. And probably with about 12 other people, so about 13 of us in this assessment centre. We did kind of typical assessment centre things, but part of it was before you went, we had to go to an Aldi store, look around, see what we kind of noticed, see if we, if anything specific, and kind of take note. And then that kind of came into the assessment centre. They were asking us about, what's your favourite product? What did you notice about this? What did you notice about that? And kind of, as it is, just to try and make sure you're really paying attention, and also you've done your research, which is obviously always important. But I did enjoy the assessment centre. It was really nice to kind of get that side of things. And then following that, it was turning up the temperature a bit. So I had my final 2 interviews on the same day, which is not very common. But I think that the people interviewing me were due to go on holiday just before Christmas, so they wanted to get me through and figure out if I was worthwhile hiring or not. So I went up and had my interview with the director. Just around about kind of early afternoon, and it was a director and a manager who I'd eventually end up working under as the director. Typical interview, very testing, trying to see if I knew my stuff, trying to put me under a bit of pressure, see how I'd cope with it, which I really enjoyed. I felt like I probably nerved my way through it just about, and then straight away they went out of the room, came back 10 minutes later, said, "Oh, here's the managing director. He's going to interview you now." At which point I was very sweaty palmed. It was like, oh my God.
I was just, that's quite a big deal. The managing director just rocking up for your interview.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird. Audi. They were really lean hierarchy. So for example, as a placement student, both in retail and corporate, you come in at the level in terms of who you're reporting into. You come in as kind of a manager level. Obviously, you're not expected to be a manager. And manage people, but they put that kind of pressure on you to report into the directors, and so they give you your tasks. They kind of see how you're doing, which is really great. I found it amazing because it was obviously these really senior people that I had to report into. They were definitely nerve-wracking. But then obviously above that means you've got the managing director straight away. So he was the one who made the decision on kind of who they hire as placement students. And obviously getting some face time between yourself and the managing director of someone with that much experience was just amazing, even though I was terrified probably through the entire deal.
This is just the interview though, it got a bit easier when you did get into the placement, I imagine, speaking with those people and working with them.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. So the process was interesting, and they obviously got you through lots of stages and they interviewed you, but then as soon as you're in the company, there's lovely people to work for. Not nerve-wracking, but really warm, welcoming, really friendly. Great people to be around, and just had an amazing time with them.
Yeah, good. And I enjoyed. I mean, was Max's placement officer, so I got to hear a lot about your experience. But every time we spoke, it was Brexit, Suez Canal, COVID. So for supply chains, I think you had the simultaneously best and worst year for something like corporate logistics or supply chains, with all of the things that were thrown at you. But like you said, great experience. So and getting to work through those was probably quite a learning curve and an experience, I guess.
Yeah, it was really funny actually. So obviously, like you say, it was probably the worst year that supply chains have had in recent memory.
Yeah.
And every week something else had gone wrong. I'm left now, and even I looked on the news the other day, and there's all of these lorry driver shortages, which were massively pushed. Literally one problem after another. So it was great for me to be in a placement and watching kind of really experienced people deal with massive issues that, when I was shopper in the store, I didn't really think, I don't really care about what Brexit does to. I just want my chicken, I just want my rice. But then going into that and seeing exactly what has to go into place and all the planning really far out to just make sure that food is on the shelf is really incredible. But in terms of actually how it came along, it was really funny. So I was probably 2 weeks before Christmas, I was kind of pulled into my boss's office and said, "Oh well, we're a bit short on Brexit staff, so drop what you're doing. You're on Brexit now." And I did that for about 2.5 months. So,
which, you know, I mean, you did Brexit in 2.5 months. I mean, it took the rest of the country about 2.5 years. So really, Max is the person to go to if you need Brexit.
Absolutely not. I had no idea what I was doing.
Yeah, but it must have been interesting to see that turnaround.
Yeah, no, it was amazing, to be honest. I think, as boring as it sounds, it's one of my favourite times of the year, which makes it sound so sad saying that Brexit is uninteresting.
But it is.
Because it was so fast paced and everything was so important. It felt really good to be on a placement student there, because what you did actually really mattered. So to have that kind of experience and exposure was just incredible.
Yeah. So kind of, I guess, touching on that, that's kind of the reality of your placement, and quite quickly, but how did that measure up to what you were expecting from a placement year, or what were your expectations of a placement year with Aldi as well?
So for a placement scheme with Aldi, I mean, I kind of read the reviews. I don't think anyone makes a secret of it if you read reviews about Aldi that it's going to be easy breezy.
Right.
You know, it's a long week. You, as a placement student, you do 50-hour weeks, which is quite long, and it definitely is a shock system when you join. But in terms of not just the kind of the hours and the kind of the stress that comes with that, but the actual the kind of responsibility that you get was far beyond my expectations. So I thought it would be difficult, but I never expected in a million years the amount of responsibility that they pile on you. So in a really good way, it was amazing to have. So the projects that they kind of put you on is, stuff that really impacts the business, really has a real life impact. You see it happening. So not just to mention, obviously with Brexit. So Brexit is such a huge issue. There's, every business in the world at the moment, especially in the UK, is looking at customs and tariffs and all of the things that are needed to get the product into the UK and pass all these customs checks. Having a direct impact on that, obviously, if you don't do it, it's not happening. And that continued. So with my other projects that I did, I was doing bits and pieces, controlling bits of the supply chain, that there was no safety net to kind of be there in case, as a placement student with very limited experience beyond that 1 year that you've been in the company, if there's no one to kind of mop up it, if you make a mess, if you don't do it, it doesn't get done, which was a brilliant opportunity for me to kind of learn off it, because that kind of pressure is the sort of thing that I've kind of thrived in. And it was, really enjoyed it, and managed to get feedback.
So basically, if you thrive in high pressure environments, maybe Aldi is the place for you to look, because that level of responsibility is really going to push you, and the learning that must come from that, I can't imagine, because mine wasn't that high pressure when I did a placement. Was quite pressure, but it was good.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I think, although if you know your work rather than high pressure, then by all means Aldi's definitely the place for you. But I wouldn't write it off to anyone. I think the most important thing is having a work ethic there. Because if you read any sort of review on Aldi, or speak to anyone who worked at Aldi, they'll tell you it's quite long hours and you have to work really hard. But as a placement student there, because their scheme, both in corporate and general management, is really set up and it's been established for, I think, over 20 years. Aldi retail, they're not expecting you to come in on day one and know what you're doing. So, if you're not the best at, I was terrible when I came in. I was really nervous. I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do if something goes wrong? But because they have that support network there and the people around you are just amazing, is you learn to deal with these things. So, if you're great at operating in a high pressure environment straight off the bat, then by all means, Aldi can be the place for you. But if you want to try something new, want to try a company that all it demands is that you put everything you got into it, and it'll give you everything back. But you don't have to be someone that's amazing at public speaking, amazing at doing this, amazing at doing that, because I came into it not knowing much at all. I was just keen to learn. And if you've got that, I think you'll do absolutely fine and probably really enjoy it along the way.
And I think that's key for every placement, not only with Aldi, as long as you're there to learn and to do the work to learn, there's going to be that support network in place, whether it's an established program, a new program, a kind of understanding that that's what you're there to do. So as long as you put that work in and learn and take the feedback, take the constructive feedback as well, it's nothing personal, it's just a job to do, then you can get a lot out of a placement, which is good. I mean, so other than obviously someone lodging a great big tanker in the Suez Canal, was there anything that like was really unexpected about your placement that either you enjoyed or that was just, I guess, unexpected?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the real thing that was unexpected was kind of again, coming back to that responsibility, but the kind of things that I've got to do and the people that I had to interact with to do that. Yeah. So as a placement student, I thought I'd very much be coming in as the intern, and you kind of, do what you do, and you're very kind of closely looked over, and everything you've got is kind of checked and assured, and then you kind of stay almost in your lane, but you don't go and speak to whoever you want at any point. And it wasn't the case at all. I unexpectedly was given kind of free rein to do whatever I wanted with these projects. So they said, here's a problem, go fix it. And that was the brief. And it was, okay, what is the issue? Where is this coming from? Who do I need to go to speak to sort this? And it was the case of calling up, people in love departments who are very much more senior than I ever planned, I am at the moment. And, kind of talking to them, having that conversation with them, which was amazing to have that opportunity, and really unexpected to not think that would be the case at all. So
and I think from the conversations we had over your placement, my favorite takeaway from Aldi is that your one-page briefs. So we get you through universities writing 3,000 word reports and all of this, and then you were rushed in and they said, oh, you want to do that? Give it to me in one page. So how did you manage that? Was that difficult for you, or what happened?
Absolutely. So Aldi love their one pages. They love their precise communication. So when I came in, I was very used to the essay style writing everything, and they went, that's great, halve it on everything I did. Yeah, exactly. So it was a bit of a shock again coming in. But it makes sense. You kind of have to put everything on a one page, because someone high up the business that might be reading it, they don't have time to read through your adjectives and your hyperbole and all of that. It's just, what does it mean? Tell me the simplistics. Go. But it was another good skill to learn, because being really concise in both, not just kind of one pager format where it was obviously a document you have to put together, but emails and also spoken communication. If you get 30 seconds to speak to someone that could make a decision, you have to make sure that what you're saying is actually what you want to get out of the conversation. So I found that really useful.
And I think I just enjoyed it because as a careers placement person, we're constantly talking about concise, succinct, make your point relevant. You're talking 30 seconds. We talk 30 seconds to 60 seconds for an elevator pitch where you've got to sell yourself. And this is all stuff. So although you're talking about selling yourself as a candidate, or your CV is 1 or 2 pages, this actually does translate. You've got to know how to make your points and make them clearly, and make sure that that's being said or being given to the right person, whether that's your CV or whether that's your brief document that has to go to solve a tanker spillage or something, whatever it is. But that's, unless you got in the tanker and moved it yourself, I don't know if you helped.
I was going to do it, and then it got cancelled because of COVID. I was really excited.
Oh no, couldn't travel. No. That's good. So what would you say would be the highlight of your placement year, if it was one particular project, point, meeting, comment, anything like that?
I think I'd say, to be fair, it was probably only about 4 weeks ago. So the way it works at Aldi is you do your placement year, and because grad jobs is like a really kind of big thing for Aldi, they have this big grad scheme that a lot of people know about. Is you do almost like an exit interview at the end of the day, where you sit up in front of the managing director and all of and all of the directors in your department, and you present on what you've done. And basically I had to present on what my project I'd done for the year and what I'd kind of got out of it. And when I say that I was completely nervous, and I do not enjoy presenting at all, and it was just thing I was terrified for about 3 weeks. It would be an understatement. But I got up there, presented it, the best I've ever presented anyway. So I was really proud of how I did. And then he seemed, the MD was really impressed. He was really happy. He said, had really good feedback. He asked some pretty tough questions that I was able to answer. And just kind of getting over that kind of mental blockade I had of, oh my God, this guy is really important. I don't know what I'm going to be saying. I don't know if I'm going to be coming across like I have no idea what I'm doing. But no, it went really well. And that was really nice for me and a nice moment. And just felt like everything I'd done for the last 6 months had kind of been accomplished, and I'd put it across really well.
Yeah, good. Yeah, and I know public speaking is one that a lot of people do not get on board with, and people find it really funny because I don't understand it. I will get up and speak to anyone, but I understand it's so difficult. So it's good to hear that, after a placement year, you were able to give that kind of presentation and get that good feedback and really kind of impress, hopefully, that MD over at Aldi. So that's really good. So the final point, and I ask all of the students this and anyone we interview, is what would be your one tip for either undertaking a placement or securing that placement with the company or in the role that a student really wants?
I think, to be fair, I think that the one tip I'd have straight off the bat that I used massively when applying for placements was make sure that don't try and be too job based when you're applying. Is find your hobbies, and really push them across. So when I applied, I felt like a massive part of it was that I played sport at university and I had hobbies and I had things that not necessarily be the thing that job hirer would necessarily look for straight off the bat, but because it gives you a personality. Focusing on your individual personality and your individual attributes are a lot more valuable than you think they might be when you start off, because you might think, oh, well, I play football. Great. That doesn't really matter to a job, but it actually does, because your hobbies and your personality are who they're hiring. So make sure you get that across and make sure that you show who you are, because it's more likely to that than anything else.
And I think I say this to all my students, work experience and relevant work experience is great, but you can pull so much from those hobbies. Like you just said, oh, I just play football. Okay, great, but that means that you can work in a team, you can communicate with people, you can build relationships and collaborate in that team. And you may see it as, oh, well, I play once a week for the uni team, or Sunday league, or whatever it might be. But like you say, it gives you a personality. It gives you something else to draw from when you're talking to people. Gives you a personality, and that's really important, because you're building a relationship with someone that you're probably going to be working with for 12, 13 months, and that's what they're buying into, as well as your experience and your skills as well. So yeah, I like that. That's a good one. I like that. Wow. It's been lovely speaking to you, Max, and thanks, because I've heard more about your placement, which is brilliant, since you finished, because I know we hadn't spoken in a few months. Like I said at the top of the podcast, if there is anything that you want us to discuss, any kind of topics you want us to cover, drop us an email at placements.sbs@sutton.ac.uk, and we'll be back soon with another SBS Placements podcast.